Rakaka.se, it's Hellsman here, it's Saturday, it's the third day, it's the playoffs day, and we have some very special guest here. Hello, Carmac.
Not so special. Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm very, very good. I feel at home here, actually. First of all, I'm half Russian. Second, it's the country is very similar to Poland, actually. So, with its twist, obviously.
Would you say that was it your suggestion to go to Kiev because of your connection and that you handle the language?
Yes, it was. Yes. Basically, I've seen a couple of events here. The coverage from these events. I've talked to the players. I've spoken to the press. No one had anything bad to say about the arena. So I decided to visit the Aces Cup here, and basically, thanks to my Russian language skills, we've sat down, we've agreed to do this together, and I couldn't be more delighted with how this is working out for us.
What would you say is the strong parts with being in Kiev and being in this arena?
Well, first of all, for Intel, our partners, it's important to be in several different regions. Second, I think for the prestige of the tournament, it's good to travel around the world and not necessarily every time in a different place, but to spread to several places, basically to be present in, just like they place the Champions League final in different cities or the World Cup in different countries. I think it's very good for the brand. And it's also extremely good for the fans, obviously, because German fans are very lucky that ESL puts up so many events. But esports is very popular around the world, so I think it's basically great. There is no downside.
It seems to be very popular. I saw a lot of kids standing outside yesterday when it was closing to get passes today. So, StarCraft 2 is the new game. You brought it in the middle of the season.
Not really, no.
Yeah, well, the first event was in StarCraft 2, right?
Correct, but that's only because StarCraft 2 is not released in China yet.
Yeah.
And the first event was in China, but we knew we would go for StarCraft 2 before the event in Shanghai. We already knew we wanted to do one at Gamescom.
Yeah, okay. What would you say is the big change for ESL and Inter Extreme Masters with having StarCraft 2? Because it has turned the table for sure, giving more attention to esports.
Well, StarCraft 2 in general as a game is a big change for anyone. It's reviving the esports scene. A few years ago I've said that we need a new game which would be a really good game, because obviously in the old communities the games are old, and life is such that when there's an old game it doesn't keep getting new people in, it just keeps losing people. It's like, the community is not reproducing anymore, and there are no new babies in the community. And we basically needed a new game which would be a healthy esports title, and that's what StarCraft is. And it's a fantastic game, it's an exciting game to watch. It's a one-on-one game, so it's easy to promote the personalities, and it's really cool to commentate as well.
For sure. Do you see there is a little bit problem, especially with these finals, that is 10 Terrans and 2 Protoss, 0 Zerg? If that would continue, could that take away some attention from the Europe scene?
Well, I think in general it's a part of it's a slight problem for us, I would say, because obviously we would have wanted more variety race-wise. But I see this as a StarCraft 2 problem, because the Intel Extreme Masters European Championship here, the finals event, it reflects the balance in the game, at least in the European scene, in the last few months. And as we can see, part of it you can put down to chance, to randomness, but the message is clear. Terran is the strongest race, or maybe the easiest to play. At least that's my view, but I'm just a number one bronze player. So what do I know? But Blizzard is constantly patching the game. I wouldn't blame Blizzard, because they're obviously the best at making those games. And it's just a question of delicately fine-tuning the balance, and I think it's going to be fine. As I said, we've had qualifiers, we've had a long process, we've had 24 players playing the online stage, and the 12 here are the best out of the best. So you can't really blame our system. You have to blame something else.
Yeah. I must just ask, how is your practice going with Rotterdam? Have you started yet?
No, we haven't started. I was actually not practicing that much. In order not to, it's a good story if I start out in bronze. So I think I'm relatively good. I think I have decent game sense. I'm terrible with control. I'm terrible with fine-tuning economy and perfecting a build, so I have money every time, but that's what Rotterdam is for. So hopefully he's going to teach me. But the show is not only about me leveling up, it's supposed to deliver. Actually, my initial idea for the show was that it would deliver tips for upcoming players, for bronze level players. Hey, here's a defensive build order for Terran. Here's a build order where you defend pressure from a one-base Terran, and so on and so forth. Here's how you kite properly. Here's basic micro with stalkers. Here's advanced micro, and so on. And that was my original idea. Then I talked about it with our StarCraft 2 referee Sean, and he said, "Dude, why don't you be in the show, and why don't you level up live on the show?" And I thought it was an amazing idea. The trailers make it look like it was my idea. It wasn't. It was Sean's idea. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the show because I'm going to have a ton of fun playing, and I think people will generally have a nice story to follow. If you're a high-level StarCraft 2 player, you're going to have a nice story to follow, and the noobs will learn a ton.
I must ask, two players from the Intel Extreme Masters, I think, got disqualified. First, it was Naneva for not showing up to a game, even though I heard that he was on place. Later on, it was Sturmy because of connections problems. Still, I heard that Avik postponed quite a lot of games in the end, but didn't suffer penalty points. Can you, first of all, is it hard for you to follow the rules and kick out players like Sturmy and also Naneva? And it's, just like give us a thought about what you think about it.
Actually, I felt so bad about Sturmy because 1 week before he got disqualified, or 1.5 weeks before he got disqualified, I was actually sleeping at his place. I was visiting Milan with my girlfriend, and he was so kind as to give us shelter there. He was an amazing host, so it was extremely heartbreaking for me. But at the same time, I did what I could to make sure that this is all by the book and that we are not doing anything wrong. What is there to say about it? First of all, first thing I have to say, I am the Intel Extreme Masters Product Manager. I take care of the business side.
Yeah.
Therefore, it is in my absolute best interest to have Naniwa, Sturmy playing in the tournament. And yet, because I have a direct connection to the business, for instance, there is a team which is sponsored by Razer, who is a sponsor of ours.
Yeah.
I absolutely must not get involved in any referee matters whatsoever. So basically, I had almost nothing to do with the disqualifications, except for making sure that they're absolutely fine and that the players have a chance to defend themselves, to say their end of the. All I was doing is making sure that the players have a chance to explain themselves. Disqualification in any ESL competition, as far as I know, is not for one thing. It's a collection of facts which come one after another after another. If you accumulate enough penalty points, then you need to be removed, unfortunately. So you would have to talk to the referees, but to the best of my knowledge, I went down personally to every one of the referees that handle Quake Live, and basically they said that I don't want to say that much about it. Sturmy's a friend, but basically what they said is that let me put it this way. The question I asked was, if Italy hadn't had the connection problems, would he still, is there any way he still would have been able to be in the competition? They told me no, and I couldn't step any step farther than that. As I said, I cannot get involved. Naniwa, also, I think the problem with Sturmy was that he was communicating with us, but the official, generally the official means of communication between the players and the administration, there's several admins. If you tell one, they are part-time, they're doing a couple of hours a week, sometimes not communicating. If you want to ever communicate with our referees, you have to do it through match protests inside our system.
Okay.
So that everybody in the referee team can see, and there is a log. You can't, you know, an IRC log where somebody could have been AFK or whatever, or the computer crashed and no one has seen it. That's not an excuse for saying, hey, I informed you on time. So we have this problem with several players, and sometimes when unfortunate things happen, as in the case of Sturmy, who I believe part of the problem was that he was not communicating through the appropriate channels. Therefore, penalty points had to be applied. That's a major part of the problem with the players. And basically, our admin staff is doing their best to communicate, sending players emails. This is how you do things. But sometimes many players, a lot of players are actually a little bit careless.
Yeah.
And it's a long process. I mean, we've had Quake Live. This was the second season of Quake Live in Intel Extreme Masters. Players need to learn. Last season we were more lenient on them because it was the first. This time we cranked it up a notch. And unfortunately, Sturmy's disqualification was a side effect. In Naniwa's case, I can't say so much about because it was more clear cut.
Yeah.
As for Avek, as far as I know, there was an excuse. Well, an excuse. There was a reschedule. Always there's an accumulation of points. There's not one game you missed and you're out. But in Avek's case, to the best of my knowledge, I tried to stay away from that one as much as possible because obviously I'm Polish. But I think it was some kind of reschedule. First of all, reschedules communication problems as well, just as with Sturmy. By the way, I have to say that one of the problems as well is that some managers are basically sitting with thumb up there behind and not paying attention to their players. Well, it's actually their job. Players tend to be irresponsible, tend to have school and other responsibilities, while if you're a full-time manager, then you have no excuse if your player gets penalty points. But Avek had a reschedule, and I think one game he didn't play because there was like the coldest day in 10 years and his internet froze or something. But I can honestly say that you just need to go to the referees and ask them for that. Ask them that question. But I said all I could say, all that I know. I'm assuming this is not sufficient, but I hope it explains a part of the story.
I think it gave good depth into it. This Counter-Strike tournament maybe is the most anticipated in a long time. First of all, what were your thoughts into it, and are you shocked that SK is out?
No, I'm not shocked that SK is out. I mean, it's either a big hit or a big miss, that team, I thought. I wrote a preview on the Intel Extreme Masters website saying, I wrote a sentence, hey, they already had the get right, and that didn't take them anywhere. So, I thought originally, and I have to say, I have to admit, I'm not like a CS specialist. I just observe sports, and there's so much common stuff that you can easily compare to Counter-Strike. I always thought it was Khan being the heart and soul of Fnatic and really keeping the team together and being the reason for the success of the Fnatic team. whereas several players, SK has already had many players who have been able to win matches on their own on a good day, but they've already had Get Right. It hasn't brought them to any success. I mean, hey, Get Right is another player today, but still, although, so yeah, no, it's not a surprise to me. I knew they could theoretically go out. At the same time, it's just one tournament. You can't panic. They shouldn't panic. SK Gaming, they certainly shouldn't panic. They should give this lineup 6 months of hard work. They should do things to take pressure off. I think they didn't have enough time to work together well enough, and the pressure was immense, and I think that got to them. So yeah, I'm very happy though that to see a player like Khan build up a team and make it successful in such a short time. It really proves how much I think he's still underappreciated globally, because in such a short term he was able to assemble a team which took first place, defeated Navi, the world champion, the absolute most dominant team. I mean, it has to feel great for him, and it has to feel great for him to know that he was right in the choice. Hey, Forrest, Get Right, you guys are wrong. I'm pretty sure he told them, I'm assuming he told them, you made a mistake leaving.
Yeah.
And they can see that probably. And I'm really happy to see that it's not about the stars. It's more, SK Gaming went the Real Madrid path of getting in the absolute biggest talents. Obviously, many factors are involved. So, as with Real Madrid, you need the stars to attract fans, and you need to take care of the fans, because if you take 5 no-names, the fans will be unhappy. Obviously, you need a good mix, a healthy mix. Right now, for this weekend, it seems like this mix for SK Gaming wasn't healthy. But as I said, they need 6 months. So yeah, that. I predicted actually FX and MTW to do well. So I would expect one of these teams in the final. I predict Navi to be top 3 but not win the event, because I've seen enough CS events to know that there's a large burnout factor with a single lineup, and if they do continue the way they have played in 2010, they can truly be called possibly the best team of all time.
Yeah.
Obviously you need major titles, and you need major titles for a long while. I personally think, for instance, SK 2003 was a groundbreaking team, amazing, ahead of its time and everything, but that was 1 year, and then the same lineup pretty much did nothing. Absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, teams like Fnatic, I mean, hey, I wouldn't want to belittle 2003 SK, because that was probably one of the most impactful lineups of all time in esports history, on all of esports.
Yeah.
They changed esports forever, these guys. At the same time, if you talk about the entire lifespan of the game, then there's teams like Fnatic, then there's teams like the PGS/MYM/Frag Executors, who have been winning titles across several years and who have been showing consistency. Fnatic consistency of being top 3, Frag Executors being consistent in winning the events year after year after year. I mean, they've had a succession of terrible results, but then the World Side Game, boom, a win. Absolutely amazing. So if Navi continue, then I think we're going to maybe see, because they were as impactful as SK 2003 or comparatively. And if they continue, then wow, CS history right now.
I must ask, I would say that the season 3 of Inter Extreme Masters, that was before you work, it was maybe the peak, at least, of numbers of events. Then you have gone down to maybe more of 2 challenges and then the finals. Is this something that we should expect in the future, or do you want to get back to having more events? And I also want to say, ask that before you had problems with paying out the money in time. I know like the season 2 money got paid out when the season 4 had started. How is the situation with the prize monies being now?
So let's talk about events first.
Yeah.
First part of your question. Generally, it's a budget question. We always want to sustain the base of the Intel Extreme Masters, which is the Continental Championships and the World Championship. So that's always the minimum we want. And global challenges are always on top. So next season we hope to have around between 5 and 7 events. But it's always a budget question. It's not a policy question. It's just that if we have enough budget for the core, and if we feel that we can execute the core program well enough, then we can think about global challenges. That's how it works.
Yeah.
As for the prize money, it's very, very unfortunate, I know. Rest assured, oh, I like the close-up. Rest assured, we will pay out the money, and we introduced a process where we will pay out money pretty much on time. I mean, obviously there's going to be, it depends on sponsorship money coming in and whatnot. This season we have zero problems with Razer, zero problems with Intel. It's not a problem, but it's generally a difficult issue why the prize money got delayed. I'm not allowed to talk about it, or I haven't asked for permission to talk about it, so I'm not going to take the liberty to explain it. But at the end of the day, the prize money will be paid out. If there's any backlog for this season, it's being paid out quite regularly. I'm not going to say it's being paid out like directly on schedule, but if there's a slip, there's a slight one. So we shouldn't have those problems in the future.
Just a short one. With Eurosport and also with this World Championship that you introduced for season 4, would you say that the quality of your events has raised a lot since you joined ESL?
Difficult question. Eurosport in itself hasn't increase the quality of the events because they are just a coverage crew who want to film some good stuff, good and interesting stuff about esports. But it's definitely a very good step for us. I mean, putting Intel Extreme Masters, esports in general on Eurosport, that's a big thing, I think. That's a cool show-off. But to us, events are very, very important. Quality of events, I don't know. I mean, you would... Basically what you're asking me, I think, is if Carmac hadn't joined ESL, would the events be worse today? And I don't know. I think Intel Extreme Masters in general was going in the right direction, and I was doing my best not to spoil it. I added a little touches here and there, but it's certainly not a question for me to answer. I mean, you're basically asking me to judge myself, and I hate that because most of people's stupidity when there are talented people, when there's a talented guy and theoretically a smart guy but he's a retard, it comes from the fact that he has an issue with his self-image and he's judging himself wrong. Therefore I never judge myself, so someone else has to ask this.
But you're pleased?
Well,
with
I'm
this
very
season?
happy with this season has run so far. Hopefully, fingers crossed, this event will finish nicely. And so far, as I said, fingers crossed, I've been very satisfied with this season, with all the events. I hope the fans are as well.
Do you have any final words, shout-outs, or anything you want to say?
Well, just continue supporting esports. I mean, it's... everybody says it every time, but this can't be true enough. I mean, show your passion. Visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/IEMTV and follow us. That also helps. Let your friends know about Intel Extreme Masters, ESL events, MLG events, GSL events, World Cyber Games events. MLG is only making us better, so why not mention them?
Thank you a lot, Carmac.
You.